Betting beyond football.
Latin America makes up 8.5% of the world's population, but with such heavy sports and football engagement, it really is the land of the opportunity. So we're taking a look now at betting beyond football. And joining me, we have Alvaro, Domenico, Chris and Leo. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Great to have you all. And Domenico, I want to start with you and just look at some of the restrictions that do come with football here. What are some of the benefits at looking at alternative sports?
Well, we all know that most probably the main sport in Brazil, the most popular one, is football. And when we approach that as an operation perspective, we always have to also look for alternatives, because one point is that, of course, let's say the biggest operators that in general, everybody that is looking for sponsoring something is looking for football leagues. But I see some potential in other sports as well. In Brazil in particular, I'm thinking about UFC or basketball, as Alvaro maybe can give us a little bit more details later on during the panel. So there are definitely, or even I would say, regional, let's say football teams, local teams, that gives the opportunity to operators that are entering the Brazilian market to evaluate the possibility to make some sponsorships or to invest in the sports teams and in that market. On top of that, I will also add that, of course, esports and virtuals are quite growing in popularity there. And most probably, but we can touch it with more details even a little bit later, the more the internet connection will penetrate that market, the more, let's say, users, the more players will see using that product as well.
And you mentioned basketball there and esports, so we'll go to our two experts on the field in a second. But Chris, I want to start with you now and just mention users when it comes to user interaction there. And Domenico has mentioned actually internet connection as well. So how do you think expanding outside football will really change player and user interaction?
Sure. First of all, when we are talking about Brazil, we need to keep in mind that we are talking for a huge country with a big passion for sports. As the guys mentioned, as Domenico said, it's not only about football. There are many other sports that Brazilians are, very passionate about: basketball, volleyball, futsal, esports, Formula One, different things. And in general, what we have, to try to do as an industry is create, a whole package for an all-around experience. It's not only about the penetration of the internet, which of course plays a big role, but it's about the whole player journey. From the moment he registers, from the moment he is able to deposit, which means payments, online payments, different marketing techniques that operators use. So we need, to start from A to Z, view the whole journey of the player, and understand what we can improve. Obviously, internet penetrating the market is gonna play a massive role. Nowadays in Brazil, I think it's a developing country, and everyone having a smartphone with access to the internet, or at least most of the people, and more as the years will pass. So yeah, pretty important.
And you mentioned, internet will play a massive role. And Leo, I have to go to you now, because the past 8 months, we've seen a huge change in the industry. We've seen a massive acceleration online, and it has caused a huge surge in esports. So from your perception, how do you view betting beyond football?
It's exactly like you said, Jess. With this terrible pandemic that we're facing here, it actually accelerated the market for us here on esports, because of course, as we know, for a big period, traditional sports came to a total halt almost, and of course the companies and the audience were looking for other ways of entertainment. And we were just quite there already. So with big shows and with big content, and we are thriving with it. So esports is becoming mainstream even more. But of course, we're here to participate in this journey that traditional sports it's having for this long time, and we're the new kids on the block. So, but we're coming, trying to find our space here, and the audience, like you said, is growing a lot, and the future is it's really good for us.
And Leo, when it comes to esports trends, are you noticing in certain areas in Latin America that there are some sports sectors that are stronger than others, like FIFA in esports, for example?
Well, FIFA was supposed to be even bigger if it really had the full support of the publisher, and to have the spectator mode and everything set for broadcasts and online tournaments. That still today they are not focused on it. And but of course, other titles, the competitive titles like the shooting titles and the strategy titles are getting even more traction than the traditional, what we expected as to be an easy call, that, like you said, football or any other, or NBA or any other sports game that already have a user base, already have the fans. But even with that, they are not that big as the well, for us, the traditional esports titles.
And Alvaro, we've mentioned NBA a few times now, so I do want to go to you from the basketball side of things. Where do you see the industry heading? What kind of potentials maybe in basketball that are outside the realms of football?
Well, the game is already amazing. Oh, sorry, it was for Alvaro. My bad.
I'll come to you after, I promise.
Okay.
It's fine, Leo, because there is NBA also in the e-games platform. So it's kind of basketball has a traditional way of playing, and also now the virtual one. So, but what we see is that it's sure Brazil is the country of football, as Domenico said. But there are many other sports with a pretty big community of fans. So when we take basketball, for example, recently research from Rapicon appointed that we have approximately 38 million fans of basketball in Brazil. And inside those 38 million, we have approximately 30 or 31 millions of NBA and around 28, 29 millions of fans of NBB, our national league. So I think the goal here and the challenge is how do we engage and how we offer a better experience for the fans, so the betting business can aggregate and can increase the experience, the entertainment for all the fans during a live game, or even though between games, shows, predictions, and quiz shows, and all the possibilities that the betting brands can offer to them. So when we see is that for an experience we had in our playoffs last season, not this one that was canceled, is that when we brought quiz and predictions and fan participation during a live streaming game, we went up to 12,000 interactions with the fans in just one game. And that was a huge record for us. So that shows that many sports in Brazil, they can offer pretty good business, and they have potential for all the brands that are looking into this country, that we, as someone said, we are a 210 million people market. So it's pretty huge.
Absolutely. And now, Domenico, please go ahead.
Yeah,
You read my mind.
I wanted to add something on what we just discussed, because first of all, I believe that esports is busy making money with the ultimate team. That's why they do not have to improve quite much their experience for let's say esports betting activities. In general, going back to Brazil, I believe that a key point to succeed in promoting other sports, unfortunately, is not just one point. It's a combination of points, and it starts with technology because of course as I said before, it's important that more people have access to internet, but not only on that, is also the internet network must be reliable enough to allow all the leagues to transmit easily data that can be collected, because we create odds on top of that. But in order to do so, we need to have a reliable system in place to collect this information, and this is on the technological point of view. And then we have the product side. And when I say product, I mean, let's say, a basketball league. It's a product. It's like the Italian Serie A, it's like the La Liga in Spain. You need to build a product that people can trust on that. Because if I trust that, for example, I will not see any match fixing, then it means that it's a reliable product that I can bet on it. So it is a combination of things, and I believe that the leagues should work on reassuring the market and reassuring the stakeholders that they are selling, let's say, that they have a reliable product that has the technology to sustain all the technological, let's say, innovations that you can build on top of that. Because another point could be live streaming. If you have good technology, then you can build on top of that a live streaming product. This, of course, increase the chance of selling that product, which in my opinion, again, when I say product, I mean, for example, the basketball league or the volleyball league or the UFC tournaments. So I just wanted to say that it is not an easy thing to do. It is a combination of factors. You need to involve several different industries, because you have to involve the EISPs, you need to involve the leagues, the sports leagues, to build together something that can be sold outside of that country.
So if we look at what you've mentioned there, the technology issues maybe being one of the biggest challenges that may be in the way of actually having more expansion from different sports sectors into the betting space. Would you say that is one of the main challenges, or would you say there's another?
Well, of course, that is one of the challenges that they have to face in that specific country. But it's not only about Brazil; it's in general. It's in general in all the countries. We saw this. I give you a simple example. We work as a sportsbook supplier for most probably, if not the biggest, the second largest operator in Colombia, which is Wplay. And it was a couple of years ago when there was a football match, a friendly football match, China against Colombia, national friendly match. And it was very difficult to offer that event because the internet connection wasn't working properly and was difficult to collect the data. And we had it to cover it manually. We had a couple of people watching the event on the TV and creating the odds manually for the operator, because of course, if you have the biggest, the second largest operator in Colombia, and they are crazy about football like Brazilians, and you don't offer that event to them, it's a huge loss. And actually Wplay was the only one in Colombia to offer that match. So of course technology is quite important. Let's say reliability of the league, of the event, even let's say for esports is the same. I believe that for esports, but Leo most probably knows this better than me, you can split esports in two. You have the recreational esports, and let's say the esports where you can easy bet on that. For example, I give you another practical example. During the pandemic, we have actually in South America another operator working in Mexico, and we saw a huge amount of bets on esports, but almost the total majority of them were on FIFA. because of course they like football, and FIFA is the closest thing to what real football represents to them. It's just that instead of being played by real human football players, it's played by two iGamers.
And I want to touch. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I just said, so this is a combination of several factors that we have to, let's say, consider when we evaluate, let's say, the betting beyond football topic.
And when we look at, I want to touch on regulation a little bit as well, because if we compare the different regions across Latin America, and I think one of the hugest being Brazil, with 212 million people, are we expecting them to follow in Colombia's footsteps? And Chris, I want to turn to you and now and ask if that's going to get in the way or be a challenge to operators in any way when it comes to waiting for this regulation to come through.
Sure. First of all, Brazil has a great example to follow in neighbor Colombia, that's true. On the same time, we've been listening about regulation in Brazil for quite some time. And nobody really knows and nobody really can answer this question of when regulation will happen, how it will happen, who will benefit from it. The truth is that the big players are already there. And most probably what will happen is that when the market gets regulated, the big players will continue having the majority of the market and will be regulated. One thing that I would like to point out here regarding regulation, if what I hear is true and is about some waggering taxes, I think this basically will not allow smaller operators and small entrepreneurs to enter the market effectively, will kill the smaller operators. So eventually it's a way to monopolize the market. And I think if we are talking, for being able to offer a variety of products, being able to offer, competition in order to improve the general offering, monopoly is not good. I would like a little bit to elaborate on what we said before. I know I'm jumping to the previous topic, but just to mention, because I'm also coming from a sports background, and we discussed a lot about FIFA, and I didn't manage to say this before. I just want to share an insight. Since March and the lockdown, we are offering, in our sportsbook, we are offering some content of FIFA and NBA developed by us. And we can see that since March is number one, even higher than football, which is historically number one. So I totally agree on what Domenico said before. Depends a lot, of course, on the markets, But when we're talking to Latin American markets, where people, are passionate about sports and particularly football, FIFA can be a massive weapon in operators' hands. There are, of course, all those problems related to, how match fixing can affect those type of events, and for sure the industry had a problem with match fixing in esports lately. But I think maybe the solution is what we actually did in Betby. Instead of having regular e-gamers competing with each other, have some bots. So you basically minimize the probability of fixing the match.
And when it comes to, Chris, just to focus on that a little bit more then, if you have come from the sportsbook realm, what kind of user trends did you notice in the past, say, 7 months? Did anything surprise you that you saw?
First of all, it's obviously in the past 6 months with regular sports being close to zero in a lot of cases, the industry took a turn towards esports and virtual content. I believe this came as a necessity and not because the industry was mature enough to understand what virtuals or esports bring to the game. In general, I like to differentiate between those two audiences. I think it's not the same audience. I don't think esports is the same audience with sports. Over the last 5 years or 10 years maybe, we've been listening about everyone who's involved in iGaming and betting is listening about esports and how massive it is, and it's true that there's a lot of people all over the world following esports. But at the same time, if we look at the number of transactions and the number of betting volumes, we cannot say it's massive yet. So we are talking for a different audience. We are talking mainly for younger people. We are talking for people, where esports without live streaming, for example, means nothing. An in-sport player will not place a bet if there's no live streaming. So operators have to look at this audience as a separate audience and try to adapt. If they want to win this audience, you just have to follow the trend.
Go ahead.
And I have, again, because I'm a man of examples and anecdotes. I have a son, he's 7, and I can see already the difference between his behavior and mine. When I was kid, I liked to play with Sega Master System, with Nintendo 64. He likes more to watch other people play on YouTube. So this is something that is related to generation. Most probably, if my son will like to then become a kind of bettor, he most probably will like more to place bets on esports rather than real sports events.
He has no option.
So also I agree
like
with
you.
Chris.
Sorry.
Exactly.
He will become a better man. Sorry.
I don't place bets because I know that I don't win. So
I'm joking.
generally it's matter of generations.
But is there a challenge there for operators to keep up with these trends, because this is so fast changing? It is generational, as you said, Domenico.
Well, of course, we are seeing now these days operators almost offering everything. And basically, even during the pandemic, we saw, let's say, operators try to differentiate as much as they can, increasing the number of products they had in their portfolio. And I believe that our industry is still young enough to see in the next coming future the possibility to adapt easily to the new changes that will come. I don't see, we are not an old industry, and also we can say definitely that it's not a standard-based one. There are no standards in our industry. You get 5 different products, and most probably they adapted 5 different approaches. So I'm quite confident that our industry will manage to adapt itself to the new challenges that we will have in the future.
Mm-hmm. And Leo, I do want to turn to you now and ask you about kind of the future of virtual sports and esports. Where do you see the industry heading across the Latin Americas? How do you see it evolving over the next few years?
Guys, esports is ready for this journey with betting, and it's becoming bigger and bigger. And of course, you have big production houses in Brazil and a big audience that are already tackling this segment. You have to understand, like Chris said, that esports got into like a bubble, and it was shielded by their owners, by the game owners, that they wanted to understand first how this would impact their businesses, because it's different like sports. Esports have owners, and they they analyze their audience, and they analyze how this could generate a good or a bad reaction from their audience or the parents' audience about betting within their games. But this is happening right now. So we are being, during the pandemic, we've been reached out by many betting companies, and we are developing ways to tell this story, because as you know, we have to have a big amount of matches happening every day in order for you to be able to generate the odds. You have to tell the stories about who are these guys, and because people bet on people, right? So people want to know who that guy is, or who is he dating, or if he's having any problems, anything else. And we are now telling these stories, and we're coming with projects that are talking about conversion. So I'm going to talk to you, the company, and we're gonna have a deal here on success fees, on conversion rates, and this is happening right now. So esports, apart from like you guys said before, FIFA for us is not the main game, because it doesn't give us the liberty to do a lot of stuff. But a lot of the other titles with millions of viewers and audience here in Brazil are already tackling betting on esports really seriously. It's growing among the streamers, the celebrities, and this is real. I like to talk about the future, that the future is now and is happening.
Sounds very bullish indeed. Gentlemen, that's all we have time for today, but thank you so much for providing your insights there. We've covered the whole spectrum of sports, esports and virtual sports. So thank you all so much for your time today.
Welcome.